It's episode number 355 on the Church Solutions podcast, and my name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Michael Gray.
All right, Michael, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, and you?
I'm doing well. Just got back from vacation on the beach, so enjoyed myself. Steve Lacy is not with us today. He'll be with us in the future. So, Michael, I was on vacation, and I thought about how when I was a senior pastor, how it was really nice to get away and take breaks and do all that stuff. And as I was looking at the ocean, and then I was thinking, fall, we're now at the time of recording this podcast, it's officially fall. And I thought, you know what, it would be good to talk about, fall is when a lot of pastors gear up, where we gear up in ministry to do things. Summer's over. Okay, now it's time to get going. But over the years, I've learned a few things, as you have too, in ministry, and that is scheduling is really important. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is 5 mistakes that pastors, and this could apply to anybody, but 5 mistakes that pastors make with their calendars that really hinder their productivity. And I learned a lot of this actually from Jeff Love, the guy you work with, as well as David McAllister, who is the senior leader at, now it's called The Bridge here in Tucson, but back then it was called Tucson Community Church. So when I was working with these guys, I really learned a lot, and I applied a lot of it when I became a senior pastor. So let's just jump into it. You were saying too that you're familiar with some of this stuff, with some of the things you have done over the years.
Yeah, it fits into the lane of some of the strategies of Life Plan, and it really helped me a ton when I was on staff. I did my Life Plan, and shifting some of those schedules around to be able to handle things a lot better made a big difference for me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's just jump into it, shall we? And I'll put this on the blog here. Probably later today or tomorrow. We have a blog, in case people don't know. Just go to blog.streamingchurch.tv, and you can see many times what we talk about in the podcast is the notes on the blog. So number 1, some of the common mistakes that pastors make, and it doesn't have to be senior pastors, but number 1 is taking Monday off. Taking Monday off. Why is that a mistake?
Seems like a good idea until it's not.
Yeah. When I was a senior pastor in a little town called Junction City, Kansas, I was part of a ministerial alliance, and it was a great experience. But I worked with a lot of these guys in a ministerial alliance that came from mainline denominational churches. I was non-denominational, but they were mainline denominational. So they had a lot of traditions and habits. And one of the habits I found is that, normally these guys would take Monday off. So the problem with that I learned over the years was when you start taking Mondays off, there's probably a couple indicators in your life that maybe you need to look at. One is you might be out of shape physically. And the other one is the time off you're taking probably isn't working well for you. So many times, hey, I've had pastors tell me this: I'm just exhausted. Sunday after the service, I'm just wiped out. I'm exhausted. And so, they're exhausted and they take Monday off. But the problem with that is it really kind of puts everything back, and it puts everything on a back burner.
Yeah, I know we used to do that even as a staff and a team, but we shifted on that. And I don't remember, that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
Because what we discovered is there are a lot of things that happen on a weekend that require action after the weekend.
Right.
If the leader of the organization isn't there to help make assignments, help coordinate, help the team get the wheels turning for the week, it's really a detriment, because everybody else is like, I need to do my stuff and I can't do it because the leader didn't come to work today.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. And so I'm sure somebody's going to say here, I don't know if I put it in these notes or not, somebody's going to say, well, what are you saying? I don't take any days off, and like, no, we're not saying that. What we're saying is take a couple days off before that, maybe take Friday and Saturday off. and make sure they're full days. And I think I wrote these in the notes here. It's been a while since I looked at them here, but so you do want to recharge. You definitely want to get some energy going. But if you take, if you do it right, if you really take, like in this case, a Friday and Saturday off, if you take it off completely, you can be recharged for Sunday and the rest of the week. And so it's just so important that you get sleep, that you deal with your stress management, and that you invest, you see taking days off, other days off as investment for the future.
Yeah. So, yeah. My life planner really beat me up on sleep. I was not doing very well, and I wasn't focused on it as a priority. And he's like, dude, you're functioning at maybe 80% of your capacity because you're not focusing on sleep. So I came back and met with my doctor, and she helped me put a plan together. And it's not 100%, but I get a lot more sleep than I used to, and I'm a lot more productive because of it.
Absolutely. And I don't know what it is. I'm a routine person. So I generally go to bed every night around 9. My wife doesn't usually. And so it's kind of a deal. She comes to bed later, but I go to bed at 9. I get up usually around 5 and go through my little routine of prayer and meditation and all that. But anyhow, all right. So consider not taking Mondays off. That's to me, one of the most common mistakes I see pastors do. And then everything just gets kind of off track. So here's another one. Point number 2, taking off one day a week. Taking off one day a week. So the solution for the exhaustion that you may be feeling on Monday is taking 2 full days off. Now, I alluded to that earlier. So Friday, Saturday, maybe take those 2 days off, and then you can, have your fun on those days, relax a little bit. Look, almost everybody in your congregation is probably got 2 full days off. Usually, there may be some, exceptions to that, but most people are taking, the weekend off. Most of them are, at least sometime during the week. They got 2 days off, right? And so you, as a pastor, should be as well. So we're not talking sermon preparations here. We're not talking church calls. We're not talking emails. Don't take emails, social media, meetings.
Turn your phone off. Turn your phone off and go do your thing.
Nothing. Just relax. Take those 2 days off. So, and I would encourage people to get out and get some creative energy. I mean, go out and get outside the house a little bit. Maybe if walking is something you can do, if you've got the weather to do it.
The idea of the Sabbath, for one, let alone then another day off, is about replenishing your spirit and your soul. So you got to find something in a hobby and everybody's different. I like getting outside. If I can hike through a forest somewhere or up in the mountains or
jump in the Jeep
or do a little off-roading, it just replenishes me in a way that nothing else does. I come back energized and more ready for what's next. When I take the time and effort and schedule and be consistent about replenishment.
Yeah. And I think you hit a good word there, is consistent. It really needs to be consistent. It needs to be a routine.
Schedule it. Make it happen.
Yeah. Ministry is hard. I mean, it really is. I mean, some people, if you've never been involved in it, well, the guy just works one or 2 days a week. What's the big deal? But it's really hard. It's stressful emotionally, physically. And so you've got those times to recharge. And so 1 day a week off, and I don't think is good enough to do that. So, all right. Your health is more important than anything. And
it is.
It's hard. It was hard for me. Even I knew this stuff, and I went and started a church in Kansas, and I had to work really hard just to survive. But I learned this a little bit too late as far as really making sure I was recharged. Okay, number 3. Let's move on here as we talk about common mistakes that we make or pastors make. So here's a common mistake. I think you know this too. Staff are allowed to choose their own days off. Why is that a problem?
Seems like a good idea as well. But it goes back to what I said before, right? If you're not there on the day where you're making decisions, meetings, and what's going to happen this week, the less you cross over, the less you are productive as a team.
you've really got to have everybody together. And, the pastor's gone on Mondays, worship leader's gone on Wednesday, it just, as a team, you've got to be together to make those decisions, to talk about the past service, to talk about the future, all those kind of things. It's just not a good idea for the staff just to take certain days off that are different than the senior leader. Like you said, it sounds like a good idea, but I've rarely seen it work out well, especially if you're trying to grow, and even if you're not trying to grow, you still want to take care of the needs of your ministry, the needs of your church, the needs of your people. And when different people are out of the office, it's really hard to do that. So I would strongly encourage people to do that. Now, one of the big questions comes up is, well, what if there's an emergency and all the staff is not there? What are you going to do there? Well, my experience is that, you need to train the support people that are there to, like in my situation, we had small group leaders that would take care of emergencies. And if it was something over their heads, then maybe they would call a staff person. So what I'm getting at is sometimes what's called an emergency maybe isn't really an emergency. So that's one thing to think about. And then the other thing is, okay, if it's a really valid emergency, first of all, you need to equip your support staff to be able to handle and to discern what is really necessary to call the senior pastor or call one of the other guys on or gals on. They need to be able to understand what that is, discern what that is. Is it really an emergency or is it not? And then take it from there. So
absolutely.
But I mean, it's a valid question, right? But what if there's an emergency? But a lot of times it's not an emergency.
Qualify emergency. If you allow emergency, sometimes people will have an emergency every week, and so they will capitalize your time in a way that is abusive. And so you've got to set parameters. You're serving people, but you can't burn yourself out by over serving in a way that you're ineffective for everyone.
Yep, absolutely. All right, chugging along here as we talk about calendar mistakes that pastors make that hurt their productivity. And number 4, your work week begins on Monday. So emotionally speaking here, most senior pastors, and again, I saw this when I was working with pastors in Kansas that were a lot of them mainline denominations. It was just a habit for them to have Mondays off. So most senior pastors begin their work week on Tuesdays, and then it ends on Sundays. And then, after the service on Sunday, they kick back, and maybe if they're real spiritual, they watch a football game, or something like that. But they just kind of sit back and then they kind of kick back on Monday and kind of, mope around a little bit. And so, the problem is, again, as we were saying at the beginning here, is it kind of sets everything back. Stuff that maybe needs immediate attention doesn't. And then you're just off track. And so one of the things I've found is, my work week, I've got it set up for Google to start on, when I was pastoring, I had my work week start on Monday, and you can do that with
Sunday's the end of the week. Monday's the start of the week.
And honestly, what I would do is I had it planned out for the most part that after our Sunday services, I would start to work on the next week's sermon Sunday afternoon sometimes. It was part of my work week. And so I was working Sunday. So I was, unless we had a Sunday night service, but I would start working on my message Sunday afternoon. And then I would work on it full blast on Monday, which we'll get into here in a moment. And and what happens is, I think I cover this in the next notes here. I always get ahead of myself in these notes, but what happens is a lot of guys wait till the end of the week to do their sermons, which I think we're going to get into in a minute, and that's not usually the best time. All right. So where am I at here? So, start it on Monday. And if you really take Thursday and Friday off, or Friday and Saturday off, you're going to have some energy come Monday. You'll be recharged if you do it right. What we talked about. All right. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's thoroughly washed.
Yeah. All right. So number 5, important activities should be scheduled for later in the week. So one of the things somebody told me this, I think it was Brian Jones, said, hold in your hand a list of priorities, and in your other hand, a list of available time slots for your work. So then you want to rank in order the most productive time slots, and the least productive time slots. So you take your highest priority, stay with me on this, and place that task in your most productive time slot. So then you do the same with your second priority and your second most productive time slot. And so you kind of do this exercise is you do it until you have no more available time slots left. So if you're like most senior pastors, you do this little exercise and you're going to have a long list of things you thought were important for which you have no availability time slots. So you either got to delegate them out to somebody else or get rid of them. All right. So again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times these guys will start working on their sermons later in the week. And usually that happens as the week goes on, things have been happening, you begin to wear down and you begin get tired. And so you start writing your messages and coming out with some things. And, they're maybe not your best work, or at least potentially could be your better work if you wrote your messages out or worked on your messages earlier in the week. Because to me, I think Sunday mornings is a very important time. It's not the most important time in the world, but what you say Sunday mornings is very important. I mean, other ministry has to go on and other things have to happen as well. But speaking Sunday morning, people come, surveys have said in the past that the reason people come to a church and stay, at least for a little while, is because they like the messages Sunday morning. They like the pastor, whether we think that's a great idea or not. Right. They like the pastor. So if you're not hitting on all 8 cylinders, or if you're like me and have a Ford Excursion, you have a V10, if you're not hitting on all 10 cylinders Sunday morning, you're not really doing your best. So if you're waiting until the end of the week to do this, you may not be hitting your best stuff. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It's like trying to do some of the hardest work that you do later in the evening. For me, I don't do my best work in the evening. My brain has begun to slow down, and when I get up and I've had my coffee, I'm most creative. I'm doing my best work in those hours. Same for the week. When's that time during the week where you're focused and really on it and got your wits about you in a way that you're not distracted thinking about other things, and calendar with that priority. That's a great idea.
And the other thing too, is I've noticed too, like when I've been working with other guys, you're putting together a message, and maybe you have some, maybe you use video to illustrate a point or certain graphics. And if you were waiting to the end of the week to put that message together, then your support team that has to put together a video for you or something else that's, enhances your message, visual graphics or even illustrations, and then you're putting them on the spot. And so it's Friday, here's my message. I got it finally done. Now I need you to do this. You wanted somebody in the audio video department or something. Well, now they're behind the 8 ball. Now they're running around trying to come up with the answer to, help you illustrate your message. And so if you do that earlier in the week, then they've got time to get the right video, edit the right video, or whatever it is you use to enhance your messages.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I had a guy that, I won't get into names, but he would wait till the end of the week, and then he'd want, hey, can you get this video for me and edit this? And we want to show it.
Yeah, it'll only take you 13 hours to edit this video. You can pop that out, right?
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's going to be my day off. Remember how you told us that we should honor our day off?
So I had a guy that was do that all the time, and it was just like, come on, and then, maybe it didn't look too good. It didn't come off very well Sunday morning. And it's just frustrating. So again, calendar is the answer here. And You don't have to be a slave to your calendar. Just set your priorities right, and make sure your priorities are where they should be, and schedule those. And then, and then you can work with some other things. So anyhow, that's basically it. These are common mistakes. And look, it's addressed to senior pastors here because I was one for years, but it also works with anybody, executive,
Yep.
or
Yep.
even if you're not really in ministry, you're listening to this podcast, you can make this work for whatever you do in life, and make it work, and you'll get the best self of you, who you are, come out, instead of a guy that's worn down, tired, didn't get enough sleep, stressed out, behind on your workload. Get some of this stuff done. So if we can help you with this, and Mike does this stuff, he actually works with people. Plug your thing again, Mike. We talked about it here.
Oh yeah, life planning.
Life
planning,
it's
a 2-day process. It kind of walks you through this segment that we talked about here is just a fraction of it. It also really focuses on your family life, your personal life, and parts of you that we often ignore as pastors, because if you don't get some of that sorted, you're in for a lot of misery down the road, because everything that we value takes investment of time, and you got to find ways to balance it all.
And it'll catch up to you if you don't do it right. It'll catch up.
That is for sure.
And people,
I did it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. So you don't have to be a pastor, though, if somebody wanted to hit you up on this life planning deal that you have, right? I mean, you don't have to be a pastor to do this, right?
No, everything we're talking about is the same for every profession, every person who is professional work, and have the option of setting your own times. Sometimes, your job dictates a time that you got to work and how you got to work. But when you have the ability to set your own time, then you got to be a little more conscientious about what's important to you and how to schedule it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So if anybody has any questions about this, or maybe want some help with this, we're a tech company, but we're more than a tech company. We've all been involved in ministry here, and that's why we do some of these podcasts. Some of them are not related to tech at all. Some of them are related to this kind of stuff, ministry stuff. So
absolutely,
if you want help on some of this, maybe even talk to Mike about the life purpose planning, just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. That's one of our companies, streamingchurch.tv. So support@streamingchurch.tv, because we want to support you. We want to support your ministry, your family, and whatever we can do to help you guys. All right, Michael, thank you so much for your input today.
Always a pleasure.
All right, Steve Lacy, I think, will be back with us probably next week. I'm Phil Thompson, and hey, be sure and like us, or give us a review. We hope you like us, but give us a review maybe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. You can subscribe to us. It's the Church Solutions Podcast. Church Solutions Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get a review, and we'd like to be able to help you any way we can. All right. So again, thank you for your time. And folks, most of all, thank you for listening or watching this podcast, depending on the platform you view us on. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll catch you again next time on another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast.